Hi, Simon here from Million Labs, the no-code development team. We just wanted to share with you a little quick video that covers a new feature released by Bubble. It's Slugs, not the type in the garden. Good dad joke. Actually, it was released from Bubble about, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, something like that. Little feature, but actually really, really handy, and so important that you know it's there and you can go back and retro add the capability to your app. So let's take a look at it, what it is and how it works. So you'll know that from your data tab, when you create a new data type, here's one here, we've got logs. You used to get 3 built-in fields, like default fields that always appeared. One of those was creator, the other one was modified date, and then created date. You will see a new cheeky one has sneaked in here called slug. So this is a new built-in field. So every time you create a data type and you create a row into your data type, you will see slug added to it. So if we go to cars here and we look at the data type, so let's look at this first one, beetle, you will note that it has slug attached to it along with the other default fields. So what the heck is slugs? This one's blank, and obviously all yours will be blank from data fields that you've already created, and it's blank by default, so it's empty. What's it used for? Well, let's have a quick look at a demo page, and we'll show you. So here's a list of all my cars, and if I select one by clicking the little eye icon, it takes me to a very roughly created profile page for each of those vehicles. So here's one for Land Rover, and what you'll notice is that you always get this UUID, or the unique ID, for the data type that you're viewing. In this case, it's car profile and it's car, and that's the UUID of it. And that's ugly. Nobody wants to do that. So if you wanted to send somebody to this specific page, you'd have to send them that whole link with that very ugly long UID at the end of it. So there was a couple of ways around those, but none of them were very good. Well, Slugs is our answer to our problem, where we can have nice URLs. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a bit of a page here, and we're going to show you how it works. So here we go. Here's our repeating group that we were just looking at that shows the list of the cars. It also shows the slug next to it. But as you'll see from our page, slug is actually empty at the moment. There are no slugs attached to any of these vehicles at the moment. So what I'm going to do is you can obviously do this in the database. And maybe I'll do one as an example. So I could go to my data. I could take the Land Rover, for example, and I could manually add a slug in here. Now, your slugs have to be lowercase. There can't be any spaces in it. You can have hyphens and things like that. But it's a simple string. And really what you want it to do is represent the page that you're going to. And in this case, it's car brand, it's Land Rover. So I'm just going to save that one on Land Rover. So let's save that. So we've done it in the database. There we go. Let's go to our test page now, which is now showing that it's got a slug next to it called Land Rover. So if we now view that profile again by clicking the little eye that we set up before, you'll now notice, look, the long UID is gone, and it actually says car profile / Land Rover. Nice URL that we can use. And just to prove that that's not a fake, let's go to Porsche, click there, which doesn't have a slug, and you see it's still using the UUID, or the unique ID. So what we want to do is be able to add those slugs. Now, as I said, you can add them by hand, but that might be quite a painful process. So you could also do it in a workflow, and you might do it on creation. For example, when you're creating a user, you might want to take their full name, or their first name and last name, and put it into the slug, so that when you're calling a user profile, that you can actually call it by the person's name rather than their UID. So let's just do that. Let's add a little input box here. Input box. Let's call this slug. Let's do that. Let's put a button on here. Button below it here. There we go. And let's call this button add. Great. Now we need the context of this particular car. So we're going to do this really simply. I'm going to put it in there. So it actually goes in the repeating group. So there'll be one of these appears per line. Not necessarily the best way to do things, but for quick ease, let's just have a look at that so we can see what I'm doing. So I should have an input box and the button in every single one of those rows. There we go. Pretty. Right, so now let's put a workflow on there. Start workflow on button add. Now you will notice that you have got a new option in data things called set a things slug just here. So I'm going to click that, set a things slug. The thing to change, well, I'm inside the current cells car because I'm in a repeating group, so that's going to select this car, and I'm going to pass it a dynamic slug, which is going to be the input field from my slug value. Easy, done. Right, so if I now go here and refresh, I can now go down and set, oops, can't spell, Porsche, click add. We should see it appear here. Yep, there we go. Audi, add, done, and I could go down the list. And so now if I go to Porsche, rather than using the UID of the vehicle, it's now going to use the slug. As soon as there's a slug in there, it will use it by default. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to tell it anywhere else in bubble settings. It will just look for it, and if it's there, it will then start to use it. So you get a much nicer URL. So you can use it across the board realistically. Whenever you're creating a new item into the database that you think might need to have a referenced page, like a profile page, like that profile page there for car, then create a slug. Just add the slug in and use the name, whatever that name might be. But remember, you can't have any spaces in it. So if you're trying to take the person's name, either put a hyphen between it or remove the spaces, do a find and replace, and remove the spaces out of it. That's it. Slugs. Go use them.